So they're all.
Who even makes these? I don't need nobody else. Then we start seeing Belgian brothers.
Okay.
They got one line. Exactly one line.
You're gonna be doing the roll. Yeah, I guess you're the other one here. Good morning. This is the March 21st, 24 OLCC Commission meeting. And let's open it up with a roll call.
Commissioner Chori,
Present.
Commissioner Curran,
Here.
Commissioner Floyd,
Oh, she's absent.
Commissioner Glenn,
Here.
Commissioner Japong Porter.
Here.
Commissioner Hayes.
Here.
Commissioner Miletus,
Here.
Commissioner Warner, or
Here.
excuse me, Warren. Chair Doran.
Here. Thank you. The first item on the agenda, we have three new commissioners here. Very excited to have them on board. And I don't do anything too formal. If you guys want to chat, or if you don't want to chat, you can just wave, or what do you want to do? We've got Tamika Warren here, who's got great experience, and she's had restaurants. She's been in the real estate business, owns her own company. It's always good to have people here that come from the private sector to help us understand what's going on out there. So welcome, Tamika. If you have anything you want to say or not, that's okay.
Hello.
Hello. Also, Nick Torrey. And Nick Torrey is an attorney here with bringing lots of legal expertise. We're just chatting back there that he's got some good government ethics and public meetings law behind him, which is a tremendous help to us to make us smarter here.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Mary Ellen Wynn, good morning. Mary Ellen's lots of experience in corporate communication, deputy press secretary at the White House. Wonderful. We need some good, we're going to be using lots of communication here going forward, so we appreciate that. Also experience with alcohol and drug. You were on the LifeWorks board with Mary Monnet, who's one of my favorite people in the world. And with Marie Wacker at DePaul Treatment Centers, was my alma mater. So, anything else?
No, that's good.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Then the next item on the agenda, we have to approve the February 24th commission meeting minutes. Any discussion on those minutes? If not, or hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Curran.
I move to approve the February 15th, 2024 commission meeting minutes as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner, well, we got 2 seconds. That's moved and seconded. Any other discussion? You take the roll, please.
Commissioner Chori.
Here.
Commissioner Curran.
Yes.
Commissioner Glenn.
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Hayes.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Chair Doherty.
Yes. This is taking a lot longer than it used to. And next we have with us, is it live, Pete Panday, or is it going to be on the virtual? Okay. And pardon me if I don't say pronounce your names right. It's Pete Panday and Sherilyn Abbott from Pivotal Resources, Inc. And they're going to talk to us about, give us an overview of our strategic plan, which is required by the governor's office that we finish by June. So we're going to hear from them now. So thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your having us. I'm, as mentioned, Pete Panday with Pivotal Resources. Just a quick introduction of our firm. We are a change, organization improvement, strategic planning consulting firm. We've done work with a lot of Oregon state agencies, including the Department of Transportation, Secretary of State, Fish and Wildlife, and others. And this is our first opportunity to work with the OLCC, and we really appreciate the opportunity to be helping you on this strategic planning effort. And my colleague Sherilyn Abbott is going to be joining me to give you this overview today of what we're going to be helping you through in the coming weeks. And we've just gotten started, so we're beginning the process of helping to build the plan. I'm going to share some slides, sort of obligatory, right? To kind of give you an overview of what we're going to do here. Just give me a second. All right. So you seeing the slides all right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. So what we're going to cover today, and part of this will be to get your input, is to share some background on what the governor has been asking Oregon state agencies to address in their strategic planning efforts, to develop direction and some of the activities we'll be doing. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the success factors in building a strategic plan from our perspective, which I think is aligned with what the leadership team at OLCC is hoping to do. Outline kind of a high-level roadmap of what we'll be doing to build the strategic plan. We'll be asking for your thoughts, guidance, and expectations on the planning process, and through this, address any questions, concerns, ideas that you have to share, etc. So please feel free to speak up anytime a question occurs to you. We don't want to necessarily wait till the end if something comes up as we're talking. So hopefully that's it looks like a good agenda. So as mentioned, Governor Kotek has asked all Oregon state agencies to show that they're working on developing a strategic plan. Obviously, the governor has a set of statewide priorities, but each agency has to have its own priorities based on its charge and its statutory requirements and responsibilities. So the things that are this is sort of a checklist that DAS has put together to help agencies do this. So one is to have clear vision, mission, and values for the agency. And if one exists, then that's fine. However, in many cases, agencies are using this opportunity to review and update their mission, vision, and values, or what we call the purpose statements. And that is one of the things that we're going to be doing with OLCC. It's not a guarantee everything will change, but it feels like a good opportunity with where the agency is now to take a look at that and think about, are there better ways to express what we're all about, if you will. Couple of key methods that are being requested are a PESTLE or SWOT analyses. We'll explain PESTLE in a minute. SWOT, you've probably heard of before. That's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the purpose of those is to make sure that in doing a strategic plan, we're not just focusing on the immediate stuff in front of us or the problems that we see every day, that we really try to think strategically, pay attention to the broader environment around the agency and the organization and our mission and our constituents and so forth. So it's kind of an inventory of what are issues, trends, and opportunities. And then priorities, goals, and objectives. And one of the most important things about this in strategic planning, we find, is to be very clear and tight on the priorities. There is a problem that can come up with an agency. I call it the look busy plan. It's not really a strategic plan. It's just a laundry list of all kinds of initiatives just to show we're doing stuff. So that is not the intention here. It's to really think about the major high level or broad initiatives and efforts and objectives we need to understand. So that's where really the strategic direction and effort comes. And then turn that into written strategies and an action plan. So that's sort of a high level execution guide. This is not going to be an implementation plan, but it's going to lay out what we hope to accomplish in terms of specific outcomes and timing. And then the monitoring plan will provide a little more detail on progress. And we oftentimes will call these progress indicators because a lot of the things that you put into a strategic plan, at least in the short term, are not really measurable from a quantitative point of view. They may get to that point, but at least, we have accomplished certain steps that take us toward the objectives in our plan. And then resource allocation, and this we'll get into people, budget, and capability. That's something actually we plan to reach out to DAS and get a little more clarity on, because the resource allocation oftentimes is more tied to an implementation plan than a strategic plan. So that's one of the things that we're going to kind of make sure we get the right level of detail in the plan for OLCC. We have some other clients we're doing strategic plans for, and this question has been coming up. And then also, very important, the governor is looking for each agency to have a diversity, equity, and inclusion, now oftentimes diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging plan. And we're going to use OLCC's existing plan, but look at how we can integrate the DEI efforts into this one strategic plan. So those are some of the things we'll be aiming for as deliverables in this process. But one of the most important things we'll be doing is reaching out to people across the spectrum of within and outside the agency. So let me pause there and see if there are any questions or comments on this overview.
What's the timeline on this?
So in order to meet the June deadline, and by the way, I'm not sure it's a hard deadline, but I have to be careful when I say that. Anyway, what we're aiming to do is to have the draft plan done by the middle of May. So there is time for socialization, for you to comment on it, and so forth. So that's what we're aiming for. That's a pretty short turnaround, but that's the plan right now.
Thank you. And I imagine, or tell me if I'm wrong here, that everything's not done at the end of June. This is a process that will go on for a year or 2 years or 3 years, or tell me what you expect.
Yeah, we're probably, as we go, we'll refine this, but I think for the moment, we're thinking it'll be a 4-year timeframe plan. With the biennial structure of the Oregon state government, 4 years tends to work pretty well because, we operate kind of in 2-year chunks. But yeah, the strategic plan really is a longer term view, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's not, it's not this year's plan, it's the next multiple years vision and plan.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
Sure. Any other questions before we move in this next piece? We'll get a little more clarity on what we're going to be doing.
Just to clarify, what are you presenting to us in June?
Well, it ideally will be a draft plan with, all of these elements included in one way or another. The PESTEL and SWOT we'll talk about in a minute. They don't usually show up in the plan. They're inputs to the planning. But, most of these will be, will appear in a document that, we'll have to talk about, like how much detail. When some organizations' strategic plans are, 30-page documents, some are a 1-page overview. So we haven't really gotten the specs, if you will, yet with the OLCC leadership team on kind of what they want the document to be. So that's part of our ongoing discussion. But usually we view it as it's primarily a public-facing document. That's kind of your first audience, but obviously all the messages and direction that are included in the plan have very important audiences inside the agency, with you as the people who are the governance board, as well as your constituents, customers, partners, interested parties, and all.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So I was just going to mention this PESTEL. Like a lot of things, everything has to be an acronym, and this is one. It's a very useful tool to help any organization, this is used in business and government, to think holistically about all the things that are going on that may impact our work, that could, surprise us if we're not paying attention, that present opportunities and trends that we need to be staying on top of. And so it's broken down into, you can see these 6 elements: political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. So that's where the PESTEL comes from. So we're going to be putting together a group. We haven't identified the individuals yet within OLCC to basically brainstorm in these different areas and then identify from that some of the trends and opportunities that will help influence what the strategic priorities are, and maybe some of the other things that can be kind of kept on sort of on our watch list, if you will. So that's what the PESTEL will be.
So if we think about what makes a strategic planning process successful from our perspective, we just thought we would share a few things. So one is that this will become an OLCC plan. It's not a pivotal resources plan. So we facilitate conversations with leadership, with you all, with the people that we decide to and OLCC decide to be part of the process to help influence what those priorities are. So we don't tell you what they are. We facilitate the process so that the agency owns the plan, owns the goals that are identified, and that helps with long-term commitment to the plan. So Pete mentioned it's a 4-year plan meeting. The plan says, what are we going to be focused on in the next 4 years? But just as importantly is, how do we accomplish the goals over the next 4 years? So really important that OLCC own this plan and be the ones driving the decisions for what goes into the plan. Pete mentioned earlier engagement and support. So there's a pretty extensive engagement and outreach plan for the OLCC strategic planning process. So agencies in general, we would suggest do outreach, get input from people within the organization, but also from external partners and constituents as well. So that's what we'll be doing. We're working with the leadership at OLCC to identify not just who will be included in the outreach, but how the outreach will be conducted. So we might do one-on-one interviews, we might do small group discussions, we might use some survey methods, but there will be an opportunity for people within OLCC and external partners to provide their input. And the other big success factor in doing a strategic plan is to think about long-term, both short-term and long-term needs. So obviously there are immediate challenges facing OLCC, things like the distribution center getting up and running, and those are very important and will probably have some connection to the strategic plan in the short term. But we also want to be looking beyond some of those short-term challenges and work that the agency is involved in.
And I shared an example with the leadership team. We did a strategic plan for the Oregon DMV a few years ago, just as they were beginning a major effort to basically replace all their archaic 60s technology with new updated technology and self-service that you can go online and actually do stuff instead of having to walk into the DMV office all the time. So they were in a similar situation because of that to OLCC, where everybody's like, how can we have a strategic plan? We have this huge project to do, right? And you're in the same boat with both the physical plan and technology changes that are coming up in the next couple of years. It's going to be a huge lift and focus, but we don't want to forget that once that's done, that's not the end. And so this is one of the quotes I really liked from Louis L'Amour: there will come a time when you think you're finished, and that'll be at the beginning. And that's kind of true of the plan. The plan is the end of a planning process that begins, as you talked about, this is now we have to start doing the work. And the same is going to be true when, we start delivering spirits from the new DC. Now we have to keep running it for the next years and continue to support our retailers and our constituents across the state. So we want to have that long-term view, but not forget the short-term either.
Let me ask a question here, if I may, to interrupt you a bit, but I think I hear what you're saying, and I hope you're saying that the staff here, we've got, I think, 4 or 5 major projects going on, and I'm wondering about the use of their time, and especially during the next couple of years, who's going to be doing the heavy lifting on this, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Heavy lifting on developing the strategic plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Everybody's stretched as it is now, and this is a priority, but we, as you said, everybody's got several priorities going on that are taking a lot of time. And any one of the priorities we have now, we've got 4 of them. One of them would be more than enough. So
Yeah.
I want to hear how you're looking at that.
Well, obviously, we're just beginning the process, but I think if we talk about creating the plan itself, we're going to be working with the leadership team on some, discussions and decisions that will help then determine, as we say, that here's your plan, right? So that will require, some 2-hour, 4-hour discussion sessions, meetings, asking them to decide, who do we need to talk to? But the time burden generally is not super hard on the organization. We'll have people participate in focus groups. There may be some working teams where we want to dive into an issue a little bit deeper that might require a little more time, but generally it's not a big, we don't intend for it to be a big time challenge to develop a plan, but there will be work to review. And a lot of it is the thought process, right? And we have to think about what we want to do. And so, that can happen during work hours, can happen on a bike ride, all kinds of time where you can think about that. And then part of the execution of the plan, that time, I think one of the benefits of a strategic plan isn't just to say what we are going to do, but by focusing on, these 4 or 5, whatever strategic priorities, it helps you avoid getting sucked into things that are out of scope in that plan. Because you can say, wait a minute, we're deviating from, we said our strategic priorities are if we start, working on something different. So there's really an advantage in having a plan that keeps you from creeping into areas that, don't mesh with the broad priorities of the organization.
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Pete. I'm just curious, and thank you for that, but you indicated that you're going to get some input and feedback from staff, which I think is okay. So who is going to, or how many are going to seek that information? Like, are there going to be teams, or is it just you and Sherilyn? Or how does that work?
Yeah, there's us, and there's 2 of our colleagues who are also me working on it. And yes, we have a team that's doing this. But we try to keep our group small because, we want people to really know and have time to learn about the agency and the organization that we're working with. So we usually don't have a big, herd of people that keep it a team tight. So, we understand what folks are talking about when they bring up issues or challenges at the agency.
If can I add in here, just so what we've done on this end of it, as far as our team, I think, and Charlie, correct me if I miss anybody here, but we're going to have on this team on our side is going to be Rich Evans at licensing and Steve Robbins, of course, with Distilled Spirits. Then we've got Arnaud back here, public health, and then Amanda Borup on the team, along with Joy Spencer from the public affairs communications team.
So that's how they're going to get the input.
That's where we got an inside team here, and I've asked Matt, and I'm going to ask Kiani to join me to be part of that group there. So thank you. Excuse me for the interruption.
No,
Okay. So did that answer your question, or is there more that I didn't cover?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we're still working out the process and participation on the staff side. We're getting input from each leader on, their preferred approach. I would say, one of the comments, the questions about the staff input. One of the benefits of having a group like us do that is people tend to open up a little more than if, like if Craig were in the room, just say, that they may not say everything that they want to say. So, but we have discussed, and we're going to be talking more with Tara, really, who's our key partner on this, about, how once we start to formulate some of the priorities, how do we feed that back to the staff so they can have input on, well, here's the direction we think we're going. So it's not a one-off thing. It really needs to be a process over time. So the basically the phases of what we're doing, we're kind of in this partly in the launch objectives and planning. Just as I mentioned, we're still working out some of the outreach plans, putting together the group that's going to work on the mission, vision, and values, making sure we understand. Then this part of the discussion we're having today, what's your direction on objectives for this work? Then we kind of the biggest sort of churny part of it is what we call reflection and research. So that's when we'll look at the mission, vision, values. We'll do the internal, external outreach, conduct the PESTEL and SWOT analyses. And then we'll take all of that input and then synthesize it into key findings and themes. And sometimes one of the things that comes out of this is, in addition to the strategic plan, maybe some areas of opportunity for improvement that can be addressed, whether short-term or long-term. So not everything we learn is strategic, but when we hear input from staff, for example, there may be areas that, especially with a new leadership team, we didn't really realize this was an issue in the agency, and we want to do something, again, without getting off into things that aren't important, that can help us execute even on the projects that are going on today. And then key messaging out of that. And then from there, we basically draft the documents, the plans, the communication that will become the final deliverable. Those are the four main phases. So a lot to do in basically a couple months.
Excuse me, do we have an existing strategic plan that is just going to go by the wayside, or do you build off of that? Or I know we've had strategic plans here before.
Right. The most recent strategic plan that we've seen is like
It was
6
20.
years old. Yeah, it's quite a while, like 2017, I think. Never memorize it, but it's been a while. There is information that's provided in the it starts as the agency request budget, right? But then it becomes the legislatively adopted budget, so that we know there's information in there that we can draw from, and will, but we also don't want to just copy paste. It needs to be a fresh look at where we want to go based on today's realities. So it's got to be a balance. We're always looking to send the message that our future direction is influenced by where we've been and the great things we've done as an agency and organization in the past. So it's a next phase in our growth evolution, our history as an agency.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Now we have questions.
Yeah, so I think that was our overview of what the planning process looks like. Hopefully that gives you an idea of the work that will be done over the next just couple of months to deliver what will be a strategic plan sometime in May, June timeframe. So this is our opportunity to hear from all of you. What are your expectations, thoughts you have about the strategic plan that you think are critical for us to consider as we move forward in working with you and the staff on creating the strategic plan for OLCC.
Chair.
Commissioner Jerome Porter. Yes.
I mean, this is probably pretty basic. However, all of us here, we just cycle through, right? So I think it will be important to have an element of continuity so that whatever plan that you implement is easy to integrate for the commissioners as well as to pass on so that there are no big lapses.
Yeah, great point. And that's a challenge, for leadership as well. A lot of times people get worried that every time new leadership team comes on board, we throw everything out and start over. So definitely something we'll be looking to address in the plan.
Have you been looking at that? Have you considered that?
Is that a question for me?
Just wondering.
Oh,
Had you-
Sorry.
yeah, that's a normal thing that we would be evaluating is how do we ensure continuity, as Pete said. We just started in the last couple of weeks, so those will be front and center in the conversations going forward.
Chair.
Commissioner Kern.
I would just be curious, kind of following up on Chair Doherty's comments about time. I was kind of interested in, is there going to be, this has to be achieved in a year, this is 5 years, this is 10 years, is there going to be different periods of time and different goals that we're going to be achieving? And I think that it would be good based on what I'm hearing, for us to have different timeframes, short-term goals, long-term goals, so that we can have some bigger picture and more micro goals to try and accomplish.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Sharon. Sorry.
Yeah, there will be, as Pete mentioned, unless we change direction based on input from you and the leadership team, it's a 4-year plan. So there'll be a variety of things that we'll be looking to achieve in that 4 years. It could be that there's something that we know will take 10 years to achieve, but within the 4 years, there are some micro goals that will move us towards that. Moving forward, if we fast forward 4 years from this plan, you should be able to refresh the plan with what are any new priorities that come up, and or where have we made progress towards the ones that we still need to continue to work for in the next, in years 4 through 8. So there should be kind of a connection point for the items that will take longer than 4 years to accomplish.
Right. Yes, Commissioner Hayes.
Thank you. So I'm a big fan of plans. Been through a number of strategic planning processes in my life. And so I did look you up and check out who else you worked with. So you passed that, let's just say. And so I'm actually really excited to get started on this. I used to be able to say as the newest commissioner, but that got squelched today, of the newest commissioners. Just the concept and the work that'll go into this will help guide us as we come in and learn. And I appreciate you talked about, Commissioner, the continuity. And so I think a good plan can help with that. I also really appreciate you said it's not a to-do list of things you check off. It's bigger and deeper than that. So I'm looking forward to it. Really appreciate too, Chair, that you've stressed staff is pretty thin and doing a lot. And so keeping that in mind, I think a good plan does not overstress the staff. A good planning process gives them the opportunity to give input and to help share that vision and doesn't leave all the work with them. So we'll be waiting to hear on that. So yeah, let's see. Our informants will let us know if that's true or not. It'll be great. And I think it's a good thing for the agency to get started on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Excuse me. Also, you brought up DEI and belonging, and I so appreciate that part of it, the belonging part, all of it actually. And a big focus for us is this that sense of belonging, the corporate culture here. And I don't know how you include that in what you do, but it's very important to us. that culture be one of certainly the DEI and belonging and that every voice is heard and everybody's heard and seen and know that they matter and belong. So I don't know how that ties into this. That's kind of a, but it's very important to us. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, likely through the outreach and the other work that we're going to be doing, I wouldn't be surprised if this comes up as something that is needing some attention. So it's likely to become some type of priority with goals associated with it. In the plan, if there's some deliberate steps that the OLCC thinks we need to do to sort of improve that corporate culture. So I would expect we're going to hear that in the outreach. And then the question will be, so what are some of the things we can do to make improvements in that area, and how do those get reflected in the plan? And then secondarily, so that's a tangible, right? We might have specific priorities and goals in the plan about it. Secondarily, I think through the outreach, we're sending a message that every voice is important and matters and will be considered. The tricky thing when you do outreach is setting an expectation that not everything every individual contributes during that input process will necessarily be in the strategic plan, right? Otherwise, you kind of get the laundry list of 1,000 things that we need to do, but that doesn't mean that the input isn't important and or considered and or weighed against all of the other things that might come up as priorities for the OLCC. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. I think we do have great culture, but I think there's pockets of things that suffer. So helping us understand where those pockets are and to support them and certainly feed the ones that are doing well. Don't we?
I think this is true in any agency, and I think with the things that have happened at OLCC in the past, year or so, over time, the sort of unity of vision and that we're feeling like we're all in the same organization, same team, and the leadership team has brought this up. So I'm not just saying this, generically. I think this is true of those OLCC. The strategic plan is a chance to kind of get people refocused on, we really are a single agency, even though we have different responsibilities, that our mission, sometimes, the mission shouldn't change that much for most organizations from year to year to year. On the other hand, sometimes just re-expressing it in different words gives people a chance to kind of, yeah, that's it. So we usually don't say go out and change your mission all the time, but just new language can be helpful. So I think that's where the culture can help, we can help build a more unified culture, and then that has to be followed up by action. It can't just be words, but that's one of the things I think it was alluded to earlier, that the process of the planning can be as valuable as the plan itself if we do it right.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Other comments?
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah.
So much.
Commissioner Horn.
Are there carryovers from the previous plan that will be addressed in this new plan?
That will be part of that synthesis that we mentioned. We'll look at those things to, see, what was included in that plan in the past that, are still priorities, or still elements of, key messages and direction for OLCC. So I think the answer would be yes, but we're still early, so we can't totally guarantee that. But we don't want it to be, a clean break, like we said before, a clean break with the past. We're building on the history and legacy and good work that the organization has done, but with new challenges. Clearly, that mean we need to rethink and have that. A fresh direction and priorities as well. So it's that balance.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I was going to add, based on the age of that plan, if there are things from back then that we haven't made much progress on, that often leads to a good discussion on, well, why is that? Was it not really a priority? Did we not have resources? have things changed in such a way that we need to adjust how we address that particular priority. So it's a good opportunity to rethink.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that's really important, the agency governance is not an action item on this, but when an organization is building a new strategic plan, then one of the questions for yourselves and the leadership team at the agency is, how do we work on that? How do we keep our focus on these elements that we have said as part of our strategy? So part of the work, that we say that this will be the beginning, will be, okay, how often do we review our progress toward the plan? How do we make sure we keep it on our radar screens? I'm sure you're familiar with plenty of organizations build really ambitious plans and then they sit on the credenza and nothing gets done. And that's going to be a challenge because of the heavy work that has to get done to get the new DC running and all the new systems put in place. There's going to be a lot of attention on that, but that's kind of like the DMV example I alluded to. They were aware that we could get so sucked into that we forget, how we run our organization, maybe areas to improve that are outside of that project. So that will be a part of making sure the plan is, some people call it a living document, right? And so we will try to focus a lot on helping make sure that OLCC can carry the plan forward.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? This is all we had planned to cover with you today, just to give you this overview and to hear from you and make sure you're comfortable with what we're doing. We'll be continuing to communicate either directly or through the organization leaders with you about this as we go forward. But we're very happy to have an opportunity to give you this overview this morning.
Yes, thank you for that. Commissioner, any other questions or comments?
Maybe
Commissioner
one
Kern.
more comment, Chair. So in listening to you, I think also it's kind of more of a broad goal, but one of the things that I've always appreciated about the agency is that we are educational oriented. And so I would like for that to be a part of the strategic plan, is to find ways for us to educate licensees, agents, and so forth. I've always thought that was, we are collaborative with the licensees and our agents as much as we can. And especially with, in the marijuana side, but again, where, especially with new technology and things like that, I've always thought it's been good that we are educating first and trying to bring everybody along with us. And so if there's ways in that plan that we can continue to do that, I think that preserving the agency as it is and stability for the agency, that comes with working with our agents and our licensees. So a lot of that is that feeling that we're working together with them. And so I think that's, I've seen that in the years, that having a good relationship with them, good communication. For example, we did what I would call the mini NADCA, which was just for Oregon licensees early on, where all the agents got together, which I'm not sure we even.
The agents kind of took it over themselves. They did that thing at the Monarch Hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's just not, it's similar, but it's not exact.
changed since COVID. I don't think it ever got back to its true form, but doing things where we are informing them about changes, keeping them updated, and working together. So.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I want to emphasize that the agency is more than what's here. We've got partners all over the state and stakeholders and that we want to make sure that they're included in this. I don't quite know how you want to do that, but it's not just OLCC. It's just everybody that we touch is part of the family.
Yeah, and we're just putting together the full list of the interested parties, partners, customers that were licensees that we're going to be reaching out to. But I can say, having scanned the list that we got from Tara yesterday at the end of the day, it's pretty broad. So, you could spend the next year doing that kind of stuff, and we got a pretty tight time frame to do it. But I would say the representation of who we're hoping to talk to and hear from and have input into the plan is pretty comprehensive. I'm sure we can share that list with you. So we'll talk to Tara about that, just so you'll have an idea of who we're communicating with.
Yeah, well, it's good to know that Tara's ahead of us all on this thing already, so thank you.
As usual.
He is.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Is there anything else for us? I'm sure there'll be more to come. But
Yes, there will. We wanted to give you just to, give you the quick overview just to get you excited.
well, we're excited and I'm looking forward to working with you. Very
Great.
much.
So are we.
Presentation, that was excellent. And I know we'll have more questions and more engagement to come, but we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great meeting you all.
Take care.
Bye.
Next is a warehouse update. Steve, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning,
Hi.
Chair Doherty, members of the commission. For the record, I'm Steve Robbins. I'm the Director of Distilled Spirits for OLCC. Sorry, I'm not there in person with you today, but promise that next month I intend to be there. So I look forward to meeting the new members of the commission and doing some introductions there. Wanted to provide a quick update on what's happening around the warehouse. Let me share a couple of slides with you on that. So one of the things that's occurred since I joined the agency back in August is there was quite a bit of work happening in the arena of contracting. Fortunately, we've moved beyond that in large part. We've got our general contractor in place, that is J.E. Dunn. And we had our initial kickoff meeting with that general contractor where we had a chance to meet their teams, talk about the cadence of meetings and sort of how we're going to be proceeding and progressing. At the same time, because that contracting included the removal of the headquarters from this project, we also needed to amend the contract for LRS. LRS is our architect for this project. And so that has now occurred. And so we have immediately begun planning the workshops we've been so excited about starting. Those are all starting. Actually, we've already started working yesterday with LRS on some of the schematic design work, but we have workshops planned for next week and in the following weeks so that we can get that work going as quickly as possible. That schematic design work is really, it's not where are all of the outlets going to be in the building, but a little more general, where will the offices be? Where will the maintenance sections be? Where will the truckers lounge be? And I'll show you a picture of that in a minute, just sort of where we left that schematic design discussion and where we're going to pick that up. And then any subsequent updates that I'm giving to the commission, you will see new iterations and versions of that, and you'll be able to really see how that progresses as we move forward. So we're excited to get that going. One of the things that is important to Oregon and the legislature is in statute is that when you do big projects like this, that artwork needs to be a component of it. And so we have re-engaged the art commission that work had started and then kind of paused while we were in contract discussions. But that group has been re-engaged. And so they are back up and looking at specific Oregon artists and their work and how that can be incorporated into the new facility, as well as the new headquarters in Portland and any other locations around the state that could benefit from that. So we're excited to get that up and running as well. Had a great presentation from them talking about sort of what are the various levels of work. You know, it can include artwork incorporated into fencing. It can be incorporated into the actual facade of the structure of the warehouse. Or is it inside the warehouse on the walls of the entrance and things like that? So just excited to see that start to progress forward. And then some of us at OLCC act more just in an advisory capacity. So that's one of the roles I play is I'm not voting on art. I'm not picking art, but I do act in a advisory capacity just to put the message forward. For example, that we don't want to have neon martini glass art on the exterior of our warehouse, things like that, and keep that stuff in line. So excited about that. As an agency, I think, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Is all the artwork that we're considering right now going to be newly created art, or is there existing artwork out there that I know sometimes facilities rent artwork from the art museum or something like that, and I just don't know if it's all new created or is there going to be existing works that we will purchase or?
Yeah, sure, Gordy, members of the commission. It's a combination of both.
Okay.
For example, when you come into our facility today, you probably saw the statue of the swan out in the pool in front of our facility that's there with the fountain. That is one piece of art that is going to go with us. We've already gone through an inventory to all the art that's in our headquarters and warehouse, the Milwaukee location. And there are some of those pieces of art that will be going with us. There are some that will not. We've, created over the course of decades, posters and things like that that don't really rise to the level of art necessarily. And so some of that stuff we will not be moving with us, but then there will be, the requirement is for us to bring on new artwork as well. So there'll be a significant component of this that will be new artwork.
Yes, Steve.
And some of that, I'm sorry, Chair, but some of that artwork, just so you know, too, in talking with the commission, some of that can be functional as well. I mentioned fencing. Some of it could be just benches and how benches are structured outside for sitting outside during break time or in patio areas, things like that.
Yes, so I'm on that committee, and so the state of Oregon, as you know, Steve, but some of us might not know, has an inventory of existing art. We're going to pull from that and the big percentages, and then the art commission is also looking to encompass, at least at this point, local artists and jury those. It'll fit with the theme of the OLCC and the feeling and spirit, and align with the community as well.
Steve, also, do we have a percentage that we're required in new buildings? Is there a percentage of?
Yeah.
Or maybe you can answer that.
There is, and I can't recall the number.
Okay.
Okay. Sure, Gordy, it's 1%.
Okay.
1% of the project. So that in a project of this size, that is a significant amount of money in art. That puts us up around $900,000 to $1 million worth of art. So it's a significant amount, but we're excited to see how we can incorporate that into what we're doing.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Next topic for you is just to talk a little bit about the fact that the agency, I'm excited because the agency, in recognizing and the commission touched on this a little bit during the strategic planning discussion, we have a lot of different major projects that are all going on at the same time. Lots of balls in the air. I'm excited about the discussions we're having around governance inside the agency. How are we going to pick all of these major projects apart into smaller pieces so that we're able to address all of the tactical areas that we're going to have to address while we're in the process of also building a strategic plan? And I thought I would just mention one of the major committees is around construction and physical plant. So it's around building the warehouse and the new physical plant where we will be. Just to give you an idea, for that group, there has to be subgroups that will be involved in this as well. We have to deal with access and security. And by that, I mean literally security for the structure. When we have that much money in distilled spirits all in one warehouse, we want to make sure that it's a secure facility, but it's also around access to trucks and trucking. Where do employees enter the building? Where do we utilize cameras? Because cameras are used not only for security, but also to help us to fix problems and find issues in the warehouse if something occurs, where something as simple as a forklift is backed into a rack somewhere, or if a box was the wrong box was put on a trailer. The modern warehousing and mechanization systems have the ability for us to actually go back and find when that mistake was made and help us understand how we can address it going forward. So access and security is a big component of it. the material handling system. You're going to hear over the next few years me talking about material handling system a lot. Because in our warehouse, that is a combination of two things. It's all of the racking that has all the pallets of distilled spirits on it, but it is also all of the mechanization we call the conveyance system, which is all the belts and pulleys and everything that helps us sort and route product throughout the warehouse to the correct trailer. So if you put the racking and the mechanization together, that is the material handling system. That system has been designed. That was done as a subcontractor with our architect. So they have designed this process for us. They know what we need, and we know what we need in terms of the kind of capacity we anticipate. So that has taken place, but material handling system now we need to actually get it procured and actually place it on the floor, get it installed in the facility. And that is the material handling subgroup that will be working on that specifically. And our intent right now is for that to be done in concert with the general contractor for the project. Owner provided equipment. This matters for a number of reasons. First of all, we have to understand how many forklifts do we need in this new facility, how many J pickers, which are the mechanized carts where our employees are on them and going up and down and picking product for us, scrubbers and things like that to clean the warehouse floors. All of that owner provided equipment is things that we need to begin procuring right now. We need it for a number of reasons. First of all, the time frame on procurement is out of ways, so it takes us a while to get this stuff ordered and on the ground for us. But second of all, it's important for the building. We need to understand the structural and electrical load on the building for the kind of equipment we intend to have there. Now, obviously, one forklift isn't that big a load on anything, but when you're combining it with discussions around conveyance systems, which are huge electrical loads on the system, it's important for us and for our contractors, architects, everybody to understand how much electricity do we need coming into the building? How much plumbing do we need? All of those various things are critical, and the material handling system is a major component of that, as well as owner provided equipment. Just simple things like signage in the warehouse. Where are we going to put all the signs? Where are we going to tape down all of the indicators on the floor to tell folks which directions different rows are and which ways people can go? And where do you safely walk in our warehouse so that you're not putting yourself in danger of being hit by a piece of equipment? All of that signage is an important subgroup. Obviously, furnishings for the facility, that's as simple as tables and chairs in some of our office spaces, but also what's available in our break rooms and in our locker rooms for the employees. And then IT. IT itself, lots of work being done there. Mainly in this arena, we're talking about running the conduit for all of these systems. The actual IT acquisition of screens and things like that will be more integrated into what we're calling the distilled spirit supply chain work group. That is all kind of a different set. That's the modernization piece of what we're doing in the warehouse, not the physical construction, but there is obviously interplay between IT needs, electrical needs, and what's being constructed in the facility. And then the other thing I'm excited about is that we are starting to re-engage the neighborhood. It's important for us to be good partners with Canby. Jeff Samuels and I had a chance to go and to the pre-application meetings in Canby with their land use folks, and we are now have got a neighborhood meeting that we're scheduling for April 11th that I will go to in person, and we just want to make sure that we're good partners, that we're answering questions for the community if they have them, and that we can work closely with them as we go through the next couple of years getting this all constructed. Any questions on those things?
I think we're good.
All right, I'll just really quickly too, this is going to be kind of a small picture. We'll improve these as we move on, but as I mentioned before, I wanted to just show you again, some of you have seen this, but this is a picture of the 33-acre property. The left portion of this is a parcel of about 8 acres that we're not going to use initially. It's going to save us considerable funding because there's a lot of grading that would need to happen on that side of the property. Plus, we just don't need it at this point in time. As we do future expansion, it may become something we want to utilize. I wanted to show you here is the conveyance system. That's that big orange rectangle in the middle. that's where we plan to place it. It'll be kind of off center, but that's because the future expansion for our warehouse will be to the left of this picture. So we will expand to the left, which would then put the conveyance system, as we begin to expand in out years, more central to the actual facility. But initially, when we open the first day, that conveyance system will be offset a little bit. We plan to have all of our shipping and receiving docks on the bottom of this picture. And so we will have all of that there. We've got a trailer staging area that we plan to put in place. And for those of you, again, who haven't seen this before, just a reminder, this property that we will be utilizing actually does have a cemetery on it. And that cemetery is at the very top center of this picture in white, kind of an offset rectangle there, right in the middle in that lighter color. And again, we've worked with the church that owns that. We're working closely with the community. I'm excited to say that they're very positive about this. There are a number of things around that that cemetery, like trees, where they're kind of excited that maybe we'll be able to take some of those out and replace things with art or do things that will make it a little bit easier for them to even maintain the property itself. So lots going on. You're going to really start to see new. I'm a big fan of pictures, and you're going to start seeing a lot more pictures of things as we move forward now, because we're going to actually have schematic design and design elements we can share with you. So happy to answer any questions if you've got any.
Steve, is there some place we can go periodically and take a look at the latest drawings, or online, or just request them from you?
Yeah, Chair Doherty, members of the commission, we're kind of working that out right now. I mentioned a little bit our discussion around governance. That is really a focus for us, is to centralize all of the work that's happening in all of these projects so that folks can go out there and see what's happening in any of these subcomponents. So there's some discussion about whether we will post those things there. Our vendors, obviously, we're dealing with a lot of contractors and some contractors that have their own websites where we go and access some of this material, but we're trying to simplify this a little bit so you don't have to go to 9 different places to see some of these things, and that we can conglomerate all of those into one place. So more to follow on that as well, but the answer is yes. My hope is that we can have all of these places in one, all of these pieces in one place. The last thing I'll mention on this is, as a part of that governance, is there's for the agency at large, there's a recognition that communications is a major component across all of these various elements, and how we incorporate communications into that has not been fully vetted at this point. So I think there might be even an opportunity for us to make some of the stuff even more public facing if there is a desire for people to see updates on it.
Right. Is that it, Steve?
That's it.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Commissioner?
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Awesome. I like pictures, so the more we get, the better I can understand it. So,
Great. Many more to follow. Thank you.
Steve, appreciate it. Rosetta. Next, we have a legislative update by our wonderful Rosetta Shatkin. How are you, dear?
I am doing well, Chair. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Doherty, members of the commission, for the record, Rosie Shatkin, or Rosetta Shatkin. And I am the Government Relations Director, Legislative Director, and the Tribal Liaison as well for the state agency. So I'm here to give you an update for the 82nd Legislative Assembly. It was a short session. It convened on February 5th, and we ended Thursday, March 7th. It's like 3 days before they were required to constitutionally end. So it kind of illustrates the session being somewhat collaborative. So I'm going to share a quote, because this is one of my favorite legislative members, and he retired, Senator Peter Courtney, and he was the longest serving member for 40 years.
Oh.
And he was a Senate president for 20 of those years. And he said, there will be moments when some of us have to endure pain and suffering, but I hope that somehow we will see each other as human beings in a struggle or without each other, we will collapse.
Oh,
And oftentimes I have to stop and listen to Peter because he's got great for the Legislative Assembly and bringing people together. So
could you send that quote?
I will, I
Yeah, I
definitely
love
will.
that.
And that was during the session, and I think the 24 session, unlike the pain and suffering that kind of created the gridlock that we've seen in 2023 and some of the previous session, this time around in the short session, lawmakers came together. They saw each other, they made good on their pre-session promise, and they addressed a wide range of topics that impacted Oregonians. One of those was Measure 110, and I'm sure you've heard a lot about that. So I'm just going to hit on this morning sort of a brief overview of the session. I'll point out the two pieces of legislation that we worked on for the session, very, very collaborative in nature. And so also hit on sort of a brief budget request that Steve talked about a little bit as well. So I'll go into the session with respect to an educational point here. So the legislature meet annually in February for the long session, and that's during the odd years, it's 160 days. For the short session, that was this year, we only meet for 35 days. And so this allows us to sort of come in, but we're sort of looking at bills that might impact us. We don't generally introduce bills. And in either of those sessions, we're not allowed to submit, agencies are not allowed to submit a concept. So why am I here talking about bills? So after several months of discussion, we're fine tuning stakeholders and a number of staff members as well said, hey, there are some technical pieces that we really need for the short session. And so we worked with the governor's office, their policy director, their legislative director, to say there are two pieces of measures that we really need. And so we worked with our stakeholders on a marijuana omnibus package and a alcohol package as well. So I'll just touch into on a couple of those. And Laura, I'm going to go to 4121. I think it's 4138 is the alcohol bill, but I want to hit on 4121. So this bill in particular, I think kind of illustrate the nature of the session in that we were tasked with myself and I'm going to call his name out, Rob Bobette, who is a law professor and works on a number of policy, sort of tasked with getting together and creating a bipartisan, bicameral, non-controversial cannabis package that will address a number of the technical fixes for 2024 and bring the stakeholders together. And that's what we did. Primarily, and Amanda, I don't know if you're there, Amanda Borup is our marijuana policy analyst or senior policy analyst. And I want her to discuss this a little bit because I think with House Bill 3000, this dates back to 2021, and it was a major piece of legislation that just yesterday, I believe 20 justices around the state signed on to a letter asking the federal government to make changes on House, it was a farm bill, the 2018 farm bill that allowed cannabis, hemp in particular, to be transferred across state. As a result of that, it's kind of turned into where we're now transferring illicit substances that are in that hemp product. And so we were in the 2023 session, we attempted to get that across. In 2023, we had a huge walkout. We came back again and asked the governor to allow us to put that bill forward. She did, and it was an incredible piece of work that we did behind the scenes. But Amanda, if you're there, I'll let her explain it a little bit more and kind of introduce herself as well as the work that we did together in 2021 up to now.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Amanda Borup. I'm a policy analyst with the marijuana program. And I think what Rosie kind of wants me to touch on is there was legislation in 2021 called House Bill 3000, and that allowed OLCC to go with ODA out into hemp fields and actually test the flower material in the hemp fields to make sure that it was actually hemp and not marijuana. And that provision actually was set to it did sunset earlier this year. And so the current bill 4121 puts those pieces back into place. So OLCC is still allowed to go with ODA out into the field to test those hemp plants to make sure that they're really hemp. And also allows for other mechanisms for law enforcement to be on site if necessary. And then the other part of the House Bill 3000 that was passed in 2021 is it established a task force to be able to look at some of the more issues around the cannabinoid hemp, especially looking at products that were available for sale widespread through Oregon that may have contained high levels of THC in them, which technically is federally legal. But we didn't want, in Oregon, we didn't especially want children to have access to those products. And so the task force was able to get, House Bill 3000 and the task force was able to kind of like streamline that a little bit. But the one big piece that was missing was labeling and packaging requirements. And so for marijuana items, we have strict labeling guidelines, and then we also have packaging guidelines so that we don't have things on the market that may be attractive to children or maybe look-alike products. So you can't have a marijuana, package that looks like an Oreo package, because we wouldn't want children to be able to think that they're eating Oreos when they're really consuming THC products. And those type of requirements don't exist for the hemp program right now, really anywhere, because the FDA doesn't consider it a food item, so there's no labeling requirements. And so what this bill does is it sets a registration program. So people that manufacture these products, cannabinoid products that are made from hemp, they would register their products with OLCC, and then they would be required to have certain labeling requirements. So what's in the package? What are the other ingredients? Are there any allergens? Is there THC? Those type of things. And then also they would have to follow certain packaging rules to make sure that we don't have products that would be, geared towards children. And I think, is that what you wanted me to cover, Rosie?
Yes, you did a great job, Amanda. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
And so the other big piece in this bill, it's a provision where right now we have a moratorium. We go back every year. We ask the legislature, please give us the authority to implement another moratorium because we have an oversupply of marijuana in the system. And so this was a big piece for the stakeholders. The marijuana industry, they went back and we asked for the authority to kind of create a permanent solution to the moratorium issue by basing the legislation, basing the licenses on population size. So for example, that's what we do with the alcohol right now, sort of like an internal policy that is based on population. And I will have a package of all these bills, so you can take a closer deep dive into it. For now, I'm just briefly discussing just kind of an overview. So now I'll go back to House Bill 4138. That's the alcohol provision. And that one as well is really focused on consumer protection. As well as a number of sort of technical fixes. This one was championed. Thankfully, we were able to find a legislator with a bill that we could utilize by Representative James Hebe. Representative Hebe actually represented the district where the new warehouse will be, so it was a perfect match. And he carried the bill and championed it on the floor. This bill specifically, in 2023, House Bill 3308 gave us the authority to establish a delivery program, meaning homes are now somewhat a bar. We can deliver alcohol to the doors. However, we did not have the authority to check whether we are serving minors or overly intoxicating individuals. So we are now looking to create a fee on those third-party facilitators. Everyone agreed to this back in 2023. It was not very controversial. We just had to go back and get the authority to implement that fee. We couldn't do that without legislative authority. Next page, Laura. We did 4121. And the other big piece is just our budget piece. Colin is busy, and so I'll cover this for him. This is actually relates to the what Steve was talking about earlier. We simply just went back and asked for about $9 million. It wasn't funding we were asking for directly. It was just reallocated from one area to the next to ensure that we can have the funding to do the space, conduct a space analysis that to make it a little bit more effective for, because we're planning on leasing as opposed to creating a new headquarter at the warehouse. So pretty much, I think that covers what I have for the legislative session. So we got a little bit of pain and suffering. It wasn't so bad, but for the most part, it's about the communication, the collaboration, finding champions, and working with our stakeholders. And that was critically important for the short session. We were able to get through what we asked for. So
Congratulations. Good job, Rosie.
thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
Commissioners?
Great work.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
Jack, and so I think that the population density idea is a good idea, but how does it work for those areas where it is in conflict with that? Are they grandfathered in, or how does that work?
Chair Doherty, I was gonna say Representative Porter, Commissioner Porter. I think for the most part, what they're going to do is sit down in the rulemaking process to ensure that there will be a balance in the application of the population density. There are some areas, some counties that are not as populated. So I think that will come out in the rulemaking process.
That'll be the LCC. I think where that's gonna be something that falls in our lap, and I think this was a necessary bill. I think that the stakeholders on the cannabis industry side wanted it. It's always interesting when they want more regulation on themselves, but that's what they asked for, so that's what they get. So yeah, we'll be dealing with it in rulemaking, so good work.
I want to go back to just to make a point, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this cannabis versus the marijuana, and versus the hemp versus marijuana, that hemp with the THC in it is a big industry.
Massive.
It's massive. So it outshines marijuana. I think the hemp is at 26 billion nationally and marijuana is at 25 billion. So it's a big issue, and I'm glad that we're taking it up because it is a loose cannon out there that they're arguing to serve it wherever they want, and it does have THC in it. So are we leading in that, or is tell me about the camera and how we're doing there?
Chair Doherty, members of the commission. Yes, this bill actually, we've been having a number of conversations with governor's office, with federal leaders and other states on how to control this. It is, we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube on this one. But the hemp industry is out there. It is flourishing. And so the question is, what can we do in terms of regulation? And so for Oregon purposes, back into this is what brought House Bill 3000 forward. Staffers, Stephen Crowley, who is our coordinator over the hemp program, brought the issue up. Then State Representative Marty Wilde, we did a presentation. We explained to him the challenges, and they agreed immediately to sort of put regulation that would prevent minors from purchasing it. Now we're in this other phase of how do we regulate? And so we are asking that we can label, we can test and label these products. We are asking folks to register with the state of Oregon. We did ask for about 7 positions to coincide with this, but we will not get those positioned until 2025 when we go back during the big budget plan. But for the most part, it will take a lot of coordination to ensure that it's not directly going to minors. That's the important factors here because they're created to look that way. And so we are leading in this area. And I think there's a conversation that's happening today, actually, around that letter that went out from the 20 Department of Justices around the country, asking the federal government to take a look at the Farm Bill and where are states right now in their regulatory process. So the bill was signed yesterday by the governor. We're very, very happy to say. We're going to be looking into the rulemaking process. So we'll learn more about this and hopefully we can bring some of our key staffers to kind of discuss how we're going to have that unfold in the next few months.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Excellent.
much. Thank you.
We're going to recess. Or we can let those do. Pardon?
There's a script.
Oh, yeah. So the commission will temporarily recess its public meeting to discuss proposed stipulated settlements agreements from contested cases under ORS 183.417 and as authorized under ORS 192.6901. We anticipate reconvening in approximately 30 minutes.
That-
All right, we are back in session. Thank you very much. Where's our motion here?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, okay. Andrea?
Good morning, members of the commission and Chair Doherty. For the record, my name is Andrea Lee, and I'm a case presenter with the Administrative Hearings Division. I'm presenting one alcohol settlement agreement for your application, and I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Curran?
I move to approve the stipulated settlement agreement for Yacht Underground Pub and Grub and 2 Shrew Brewery as proposed by staff.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, we call the roll, please.
Commissioner Chori,
Yes.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Glenn,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Chair Doherty.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. And we now have discussing rules. I'm just going to do that. Ah, there we are.
Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you for being here.
Yes, good morning, Chair Doherty and our new commissioners. For the record, my name is Nicole Blase and I am the Rules Coordinator for the OLCC. I'm here to present one rulemaking action for your consideration today. And for our new commissioners, I can guarantee this will be the easiest rule package for you that will happen this year. So congratulations. Let's see. Our first item for today is initial action for contested cases. ORS 183.452 allows an agency to represent itself using laypersons instead of the Department of Justice, where the Attorney General has consented to the representation of a particular matter or class of matters. To use laypersons in contested cases, an agency must adopt a rule authorizing a representative to appear on the agency's behalf for authorized matters. The commission needs to make technical fixes to align the lay representative authorization for commission employees to represent the agency in contested case hearings in rule with the authorization provided by the Department of Justice. In addition, the commission needs to make a technical fix to delegate the authority to issue all final orders by default to the administrator. Staff or I would be happy to answer any questions.
Nicole, what drove this? Why do we need somebody from the outside or to make
So-
presentations?
I'm gonna see if Brian can come. I have a little history, but he can probably speak to this a little better than I can.
For the record, my name's Brian Haley, Public Records and Rules Manager through LCC. So can you state your question again? Sure.
Well, I'm just wondering, how did we get to this point? Why do we have to have outside people other than our own?
Well, no, so like you just went in the back room with Andrea. So that's one of our labor representatives,
Right.
case presenters here.
Okay.
So that's how we appoint them rather than using the DOJ specifically.
got you.
We have our own internal people who take care of cases for us.
This just makes it easier for us to make the presentation. What
Yeah.
kept us from doing that before?
Oh, no, we do, pardon me, Chair. I put up your minute. Chair Brian Haley for the record. We have to make changes when the DOJ makes changes. Case law is always evolving, so the rules are always evolving and through the DOJ. And so in order to use that, we have to be aligned with them.
Okay, gotcha. That helps. All right, any further discussion? I would then entertain a motion.
I move to initiate rulemaking on LAR 845-003-0031 and LAR 845-003-0670 and to hold a rulemaking hearing at staff's discretion.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? We call the roll.
Commissioner Turi,
Yes.
Commissioner Curran.
Yeah.
Commissioner Glenn,
Yes.
Commissioner Japong Porter.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hayes,
Yes.
Commissioner Melidas,
Yes.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes.
Chair Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we adjourned? We are adjourned. That's a record. We are.
Yes.